Welcome to Skillizee's podcast, The Learning Curve. Skillizee is an initiative created by Aarna Singh, an educator with a deep-seated passion for enhancing skill development and fostering learning environments that thrive on creativity and progress. This podcast is focused around redefining holistic development in children that involves life skills that go beyond the pages of school textbooks and grades that have long remained and are currently the basis for major Indian education systems. In the coming episodes, we will invite guests from various industry backgrounds to talk about their take on education policies, how they developed life skills, things they wish had been taught to them in school, and much more. So, if you're looking for a fresh perspective on what general education could look like in a world where younger minds are equipped to think on their toes and navigate daily life, you've come to the right place. I'm Soundarya Jayachandran, your co-host, and along with our founder Aarna Singh and main host, we will be diving into these conversations with a special guest every episode. Today, we are in conversation with ElsaMarie D'Silva, the founder of Red Dot Foundation India and Red Dot Foundation Global. Its platform, Safecity, crowdsources personal experiences of sexual violence and abuse in public spaces. Since Safecity started back in December 2012, it has become the largest crowd map on the issue in India and abroad. Elsa has been listed as one of BBC Hindi's 100 Women and has won several awards, including Government of India Niti Aayog Women Transforming India Award and the Global Leadership Award by Vital Voices in the presence of Secretary Hillary Clinton herself. Her work has been recognized by the UN Alliance of Civilisations through the Intercultural Innovation Award and the UN Foundation at the Solutions Summit 2016. Without further ado, Aarna, over to you.
Thank you so much, Soundarya. And hello and namaskar to all our listeners today. I am Aarna, the founder of Skillizee, and today we have a very special guest yet again, Miss ElsaMarie with us. Hi, Elsa. How are you doing today?
Hi, Aarna. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
It is indeed a pleasure to have you with us, Elsa. Elsa, before we start on with our actual podcast, I personally feel and believe that as founders, we always have a very strong reason and an inspiration behind what we do and why we do it. So, as a mentor, as an educator myself, I have a story of my own. But today, I want you to share your story with our listeners today. So, what was your inspiration behind founding the Red Dot Foundation and the Safe City platform? What led you to address the issue, this issue in particular?
Thanks, Aarna, for asking this question. So, in 2012, I had a landmark year, if you will. It was a year where many things happened and my life literally changed. But if I rewind, I was in the aviation industry for close to 2 decades, first with Jet Airways and then Kingfisher Airlines. And in 2012, I felt I'd reached my glass ceiling. I was looking for my purpose and wondering what was next for me. And at the same time, Kingfisher itself was going through its financial downturn, and eventually at the end of the year, it shut. Now, this coincided with two major events. One was I got through this program by the Swedish Institute. The Swedish Institute is the cultural arm of the government of Sweden. And the course itself, or the fellowship, focused on CSR, corporate social responsibility and sustainability in business. These were terms that I had not heard. In 2012, it was a very new and emerging field. And so I was excited to learn more about this. So imagine everything around you is crumbling, but you have something to look forward to. And as part of that program, I had to do a project that could be implemented in my company, except that midway, the company ceased to exist. And I had decided that I would work on women's rights, mainly helping women achieve their career potential. However, in December 2012, we had this horrific incident with Jyoti Singh. If you recall, in Delhi, she had gone to watch The Life of Pi with a friend of hers. And after that movie, she got onto a bus and was gang raped multiple times and left to die on the streets. Now, that was a horrific and brutal incident which got everybody talking, including me. I was reminded of my own experiences of, facing different forms of violence growing up on the streets, in transportation, and even at the workplace. And so I shifted my project at the Swedish Institute to really focus on addressing violence. And we did that. So I launched Safecity with some friends. What is Safecity? It's a crowd map. It crowdsources anonymous stories of sexual and gender based violence that people experience and plots it on a map, makes it visible. Why is this important? Because whilst sexual and gender based violence is a global pandemic impacting 1 in 3 women around the world on an average, it is highly underreported. So, not many people choose to talk about it. And so, there is a data gap that exists in official statistics. And if you don't know what you're solving for, obviously the solutions are not effective. So, that was my way of contributing to the issue. But then, what happened after that in 2013, the stories started to come through the platform. I started to read them. People started reaching out saying, how can we use this data to solve on the ground problems? And that then led me to founding my nonprofits, Red Dot Foundation in India, Red Dot Foundation Global in the USA. And Safe City now is the largest crowd map on the topic, and it's in 12 languages, available in 20 countries. Actually, it's available globally, but it's being used by partners in 20 plus countries.
That's amazing to know. And you understanding and being able to observe that there is this need, because many times as women, we just keep quiet and we don't speak up. And to the times where we have to speak for ourselves and for something which is wrong and we just try to ignore that. So that is one thing. And the kind of achievements you have had, accolades, you have received accolades for that, you have shown results for the kind of work that you have done. It's an absolute pleasure, Elsa, to have you with us again. But before we hop on to the next question, Elsa, many a times I have seen my friends who are also working for these social causes, and they are very crucial, they are important because they affect our personal lives as well. I have seen them in a state where it's not so easy to be able to balance your personal life to that of professional life, because at times your professional life, the work that we are doing, it tends to affect our personal life. It takes away a lot of our energy. It takes away a lot of, at times, positivity. You have to gear back to your natural state. You have to make yourself come back to a state where you feel that, okay, I can give back again. So how do you balance and make sure that the entire interlinked of our professional to that of a personal life, it's seamless? I know it is not seamless, but how do you, with your professional experience, how do you try making it seamless?
Well, that's a very interesting question. And throughout my career, whether it was in aviation or here, I've always tried to enjoy whatever I did. And it became part of my life. So I don't look at it as balance. I look at it as more of integration, work life integration. I'm also someone who loves working. I'm a workaholic and I can work 14 to 16 hours a day. I don't think that's for everyone. But, there are certain things that help me bring purpose and joy into my life. So, my work itself is my purpose now. But I've also integrated a lot of things that bring out my creativity, the innovation spirit, the entrepreneurial drive. So, for example, I have my podcast series, and it was not something that I did before, but it challenged me to think about creativity and art, right? I have a book series where I interview women and I showcase leadership of women in different fields. Now, it is linked to my work, and yet it is beyond my work. So, if the core of my work is on sexual and gender based violence prevention, showcasing women leaders is what I call ecosystem building. But the book series, the podcast series, brings me joy because I get to interact and meet with these amazing, inspirational women, learn from them, and also try out new forms of art. And art in your life, whatever form of creativity, whether it's music, whether it's painting, whether it's writing, is an outlet for whatever you are experiencing, and I feel if you integrate as many forms of it into your life, then that's great. So during the pandemic, for example, we held many fitness sessions and wellness sessions because people were feeling claustrophobic in their homes. So we did group yoga. We have a WhatsApp group for Surya Namaskars. This month, we all struggle to get fit, right? But we say we have a challenge of doing 100 in the month. Do it at your own pace, at your own time. If you can do one today, that's fine. If you can do three today or 10 today. But the group motivates you, right? What has it got to do with my work? Maybe nothing, or maybe everything, because it's a sense of a community. It's also, like I said, if you integrate wellness into your daily routine, it's a strategy to deal with maybe trauma that you have in your life. So I don't like to fit myself into a silo. I try to push the boundaries for myself and my team, doing different and innovative things so that we can find our own outlets for our trauma. We are all survivors. We all find creative ways of expressing ourselves, which helps in this kind of work.
You have beautifully answered that question. And I think to all our listeners out today, listening to this podcast at this very moment, and the ones who have always felt that work life balance was always a big challenge for them, well, I think you have given a beautiful answer that once you integrate the other aspects of your life to your career in a way that you are being creative in different ways, it's not only a stress buster, but then it's your way of being creative and you don't feel that work is work anymore.
I also feel I also feel you have to be very self-aware, take constant checks, whether you're working in the development sector or not. All of us go through, periods of high energy, low energy. Figure out where you have high energy, figure out when you have low energy. It's okay to take a break in the middle of the day. Maybe you want to go for a walk, maybe you want to meet some friends, maybe you want to listen to some music. But if you don't know your body, you don't know what you're experiencing, cannot label your emotions, then you have a lot of inner work to do. I also say that the moments in the day when you have high energy, leave that for the toughest things on your agenda, because that is when your brain is the sharpest. And when you are low energy, leave the phone calls for those times, the boring stuff for that, because maybe you don't need a sharp brain. So how you structure your day is important, how you manage your time, how you manage your personal energy, who you surround yourself with, all of it is very important.
And Elsa, this beautifully reminds me of what you said right now that, pause. There is a huge, people don't understand the power of pause. And I was, day before yesterday itself, I was in a conference at one of these schools. And there, all the educators together, we ended up defining the power of pause. We are all in this rut of life where we are running, where we have to dos, we have daily to dos, we have teams to dos, and we are constantly moving forward to achieve the next, then next. It's unstoppable. But then it's very important to understand that it is a time for you to take a pause, reflect, and it's not just about reflection. As you said, surround yourself with those people who can give you that energy, who can give you that motivation, who can give you that sense of peace and satisfaction. So, this gets me to another question, Elsa. There is always, I believe, there is always somebody, like for me as well, there's always, I have a mentor who's always a guiding force to the times when you self reflect and you realize that I'm in this I'm stuck in a cobweb. I'm not able to decide. There is some sense of ambiguity and I don't know what to do next. You always reach out to your mentor. It could be you yourself, your inner conscious. It could be a mentor, it could be a family member who becomes a guiding force in some or the other way. Did you have anybody like that in your life? Do you have anybody like that in your life who has mentored you, empowered you?
All the time. I think mentorship is extremely critical. So I've had mentors who've been assigned to me, mentors who I've selected, mentors who are official, unofficial, and I'm also mentoring a lot of people, right? So I think mentorship is absolutely critical to one's progress and advancement. Now, you are not alone. You're not unique in some sense. You may have unique capabilities, but your journey, somebody has pretty much experienced a lot of it, so you can ask for help. You can ask how they handled a situation. It may not be the exact same thing, but you can draw lessons from how they have handled it or not handled it, because there's also merit in learning from people's failures, what has not worked, you know. So, but the big part is that we are hesitant to ask for help. It's always seen as a sign of weakness. We are afraid to talk to people because we feel, what will they think of me? But actually, there is no harm in asking. And when you ask for help, you will be surprised at how many people want to help and how many people have goodwill towards you. And you should capitalize on that. And there is also no age group, I would say, from in learning from another person. So we always think a mentor should be someone older, more experienced than us, but you can also learn from people younger than you or at your own age group level as well. So you should actually have a wide variety of mentors, and wide variety of mentors on different aspects of life. So you may have some people who you only go to with business problems, some people only for maybe health problems, or maybe some only for life, in general.
Absolutely. Could you share some instances where some lessons which you have learned from your mentors still resonates with you?
Yes, absolutely. So when I was at this pivotal juncture in my life, in my career in Jet Airways, so I got like a double promotion. I was identified for a fast track, and I got a double promotion. And my mentor told me that when you become a manager, the biggest role you have is really developing the man in the team, the man in the manager. The man stands for your team. So more than 50% of your time should be on team development, on managing people, helping them grow, and not so much focused on the work that you do. A lot of people get caught up on the work and forget about the team. I think that is one critical aspect, and it has helped me in my career. Till today, the people who worked with me in the very first job want to work with me. Some of them are currently working with me. But, without a doubt, they always say that they would, in a heartbeat, join my team. Irrespective of which sector we are in. I think that's a great testimony to, they say people quit jobs, but they follow their bosses, so Uh, Again, I would encourage everyone to think about the people in their team and spend a lot more time developing their individual leadership as well. And I think another mentor told me about this integration. You know, when you think of balance in any aspect of your life, balance means it's equal. You know, you take the weighing scale and then something is above and something is below. But when you say balance, it means everything is equal. Can you be a good mother, a good parent, a good boss, a good daughter in equal amounts? No, you can't. So you should be forgiving of yourself and try not to be perfect in everything, you know. So that is where the balance part of it you have to think about, because everybody is so focused on being good at everything and they kill themselves in the process. And you should just accept that you are human and there are some things that you're good at and some things that you're not good at, which then comes to the next one. Next advice was play from your strengths and know your weaknesses, but don't focus so much on your weakness. See, in the Indian education system and even careers, the first question or one of the questions that you get often asked in interviews is, what are your weaknesses or what are your challenges, right? But nobody really asks you what are your strengths. And it was actually only in January of 2020 when I was part of a women's leadership program and we did a Clifton Strength Finders course. It was an assessment. That coach said, you should play from your strengths, know what you're good at, and keep honing it to be absolutely great at it. And then look at the next level of strengths, which are medium, and try to get them to the next level. The bottom ones are your weaknesses, but a weakness, it should be seen as something that gets in the way of your success. So, how do you deal with it? Don't try to improve on your weakness because there's no point, right? But what you can do is be aware of it and surround yourself with people who are good in those areas so they complement you and your leadership.
Top three, and I think you have beautifully woven all the three learnings your mentors have given into one base. And I feel as a leader, it's not just that you're in charge of what the work you're supposed to do, you are majorly in charge of people who are with you as a leader. You talked about balance, and you perfectly mentioned why all of us we keep feeling that balance means we have to perfectly handle the responsibility and the role that we are playing in our life with to other people, to ourselves. And you amazingly mentioned, because this is something which I understood quite later in life, it's easy, it's very important for you to understand when to let go and when to forgive yourself. Often we empathize, we take pity on ourselves that I should have done this. We have a lot of regrets. I should have done that. But learn and understand that you are human at the end of the day. It's okay. So you talked about balance, and whenever I talk about balance, there is always one aspect that I discuss, that is emotional intelligence. How do you balance out the emotions, even if it is a relationship with you or with somebody, with your team members, with your partner, with your family members, with your friends? They are all woven with emotions at the base. So when we talk about emotional intelligence, could you describe the place of emotional intelligence in the work that you do, and especially for children, the ones who are looking out into getting into a non-profit space? What are the actual realities of it that you wish can be addressed back when you were in school or when you were in university?
So there are two parts to it. So first is emotional intelligence. I believe it's an essential 21st century leadership skill which you have to hone. All of us have it to some degree, but you have to get better and better at it, right? Because if you look at how the world is developing, a lot of technology might take over the mundane tasks, the repetitive tasks. What will be left is the human connect. So because maybe machines might be able to compensate in some ways, but they won't. I don't think they can be your mother, your father, or your significant other, your best friend, you know. Though, of course, you had that movie that showed how somebody could fall in love with a machine, you know. Nevertheless, I think it makes the case that we also should not leave it to a machine to provide emotional intelligence. We should hone those skills ourselves. Comes back to what I said earlier, know yourself. How deeply do you know yourself, your strengths, the things that you're not good at? What is your value system? What are you willing to compromise? What are you not willing to compromise? Where do your boundaries lie? You know, how comfortable are you um, extending your boundaries? What is your comfort zone? How do you react when you're not in your comfort zone? All of this, because if you don't know yourself, everybody else, your relationship to them is in relation to yourself, right? We project onto others, we project how they respond because maybe we are upset, or we are fearful, or we have shame that they will not like us, you know. So I think we have all a lot of inner work to be done, and then start to, when we actually relate to each person, and I'm not an expert at it, still a work in progress, is always stop the, you know, the thoughts at the back of your mind and actually listen. It's called active listening. You know what happens when we are having a conversation, you and I are having a conversation, but there are 10 conversations happening in our mind at the same time. We have to quiet that mind and really focus and really listen to the other person, and we have to try to understand where are they coming from. Today, if there's so much of conflict in the world, disagreements, frustrations, fears, it's because we don't understand each other. We don't fully appreciate each other. Not everybody has to be like you. Not everybody has the same background as you. Not everybody has the same family like you. You know, so we all come from different places. Even in your own family, you will have disagreements, right? So imagine if somebody is from a different, environment completely. So I feel the work has to be done at your own level, first in understanding yourself and then understanding how you relate to other people, not how other people relate to you. You're the problem. Because if you don't interpret what they are doing or saying in a way, um, maybe they never intended. It's all your interpretation of how they are reacting. So you're the problem, right? Now, when we come to the development sector, we are working on issues, or even the education sector, for example. We are trying to make society better, right? And how can we do that? Especially when we are dealing with people on an everyday basis, dealing with the problems that these people face on an everyday basis. So it's highly emotional, it's highly charged. And you bring your feelings, they bring their feelings. And if on the wrong day, everybody is not in a mood to pay attention or actively listen, there's going to be conflict, right? So, take for example, education, teachers. They come to work on a bad day. They've had something that happened at home. Are they going to be in the right frame of mind to listen to children, especially children who may be on the spectrum? And to be honest, all of us are on some part of the spectrum, right? So, how do we understand each other? How do we make concessions for each other, accommodations for each other? How do we um, trust each other, respect each other, provide an environment of dignity? And I feel that's where we have to constantly do the inner work as well, because if you want to work in the development sector, you really need to know yourself and need to know your trauma, need to know when to take a break, when to pause, when you're overstepping boundaries, when your own boundary is breached. You know, it's not that because you work in the development sector, it's a free for all, right? You also have to maintain your boundaries. And what can we do at an earlier stage? I think our education system does not talk about all these things. So we don't talk about consent, we don't talk about respectful relationships, we don't talk about sexuality, we don't, and all of this is identity, right? All of us, our fears, our frustrations, our joys, our purpose come from the sense of identity. Even today in the world, most of the conflicts are because of your identity, you know. So at the school age, if you start feeling comfortable about who you are in the world and your place in the world in a diverse setting, I think it will make the world a much more peaceful place. But we don't have that curriculum. We don't have teachers who walk their talk. We don't have teachers who know how to have these discussions. And maybe schools are not the safe space, you know. Again, how diverse is our upbringing, how diverse and inclusive is our space for people. We tend to send children who are autistic to a special school. But why can't we integrate them into the regular? Because, see, life is not separate, right? When you start working, they're not separate jobs for people who are on the spectrum. They're all going to be part of society. So why not from an early age integrate them as well? Why do we start creating silos, you know? So I think there's a lot of work to be done.
You talked about the space which we provide for the kids at schools. We talk about the space and environment which they get at home. So, what are some of those approaches you think should be incorporated at homes? Because a lot of what a child is learning is not just at schools, but also looking at his parents, his relationship, the relationship dynamics in the family, and they learn a lot. So, what are some of the approaches, as I repeat, what are some of those approaches you think should be incorporated at homes to build a more equitable and feminist world where the coming generations of both the genders can feel the need to be heard and seen so that they learn and they grow to be part of a more inclusive world, as you mentioned?
So when I talk of space, it's not just physical space, it's also the mental and emotional space, right? The psychological safety. So, but let's talk about physical space. All of us are able until we are not able. We have, we may or may not live in multi-generational homes. For example, if you have old people, can they navigate the physical space easily? Do you have, you know, handrails in your bathroom so that they don't slip? Are you observant what kind of chairs you have, for example? So these are some of the things, right? Today, with work from home so um, widespread, do you have a workstation that you can actually sit and listen to maybe a call in peace or talk freely without somebody interrupting or there's background noise? Because now even children have to access education from home, right? So when you look at physical space, you have to look at it from all kinds of abilities and need requirements, right? Now think about the physical, this mental and emotional space. Do we have people constantly nagging? Are people putting each other down? Is there physical violence? Is there emotional violence? Blackmailing? You know, if somebody is constantly depriving somebody of the ability to do something, all these things have to be taken into account. And it can, you can only do that if you start questioning the status quo, if you start thinking about, um, again, you know, in the Bible we have, do unto others as you would like them to do unto you. So Are you treating people the way you want to be treated? You know, so constantly, it's a constant exercise of being aware, I would say. You know, take for example, when I was at Kingfisher and I gave my one of my team members a promotion, she asked me if the increment could be given to her in a separate check. And I was like, why? This was something completely alien to me. And she said, well, and she lived in a joint family, and her father in law had total control over finances. She had to give him her salary, and he would give her pocket money. So it wasn't enough that she was working. She had no access to her own money, right? So there are people like that. And since then, I've gotten to know that a lot of companies actually give two checks, one for the family and one for your personal account, right? Now, is that how you want to live where there's no trust and transparency in your life? But to survive, you have to do that. Is it a safe space? No, it's not a safe space, right? I think these conversations must be had quite honestly right before you get married. For example, how are you going to split your finances? Today, when you marry, and there's a lot of intercultural marriages, which religion will you follow? Which religion will your children follow? Not after you have the children, then you have a big fight about how to bring them up. I think there are certain things that you have to have conversations and not feel afraid to have conversations. So, how is your finance also going to be set up? Is it his account, her account, their account? What kind of expenses are you happy to pay for? Like when you're a single woman, not having to report to anyone, you can go to the parlor every week and do your thing. But once you get married, are you able to do that? So I think it's important because these things sound silly, but they can be the ground on which a lot of violence and abuse can take place. Okay, so I've known people get upset and almost divorced over the kind of curry that is being cooked in their house, coconut based curry or tomato based curry, because they can't eat the same thing. So I mean, it's very important to have honest conversations with your family, with your friends, what is acceptable. And it comes back to your value system, right? Again, like I said, what are you willing to compromise? What are you willing to um, let go of in the larger, greater good? For example, the first time somebody slaps you, are you okay? Is it acceptable? Or is that a trigger warning that it might happen again and then it could be worse than that, right? So you have to, and are you willing to have a conversation about it? First of all, how can somebody slap you or abuse you? Are they doing it in front of others? Are they doing it in private? In private, where nobody is witness, is harder to prove, right? So there's lots to think about, and it's not only physical abuse, but emotional and psychological abuse can be very difficult to even pinpoint. But trust your gut. Again, go know yourself, know your value system. And if you feel something is not right, ask for help. Go talk to somebody, because maybe your gut is telling you that you don't have to really put up with this.
What you said is absolutely true, and I repeat myself again. Don't look out, don't feel shy to go and ask for help. Many a times, as you mentioned, you'd be surprised how many people are willing to actually help you out of that quicksand that you are stuck in. So we talked about all these cases that you told us about all these things and the cases that you have dealt with. The Solutions Summit 2016 recognized your contributions greatly. Can you share a specific success story or an impactful case again where the Safety City platform which you have built has played a crucial role in bringing about the positive change that you had seen?
Yeah, I think there are many success stories. So, Safe City itself was recognized as an innovation by the UN where we were crowd mapping sexual violence. So, first of all, what is violence? What does violence look like? That is important to understand. And with these stories, you can find a wide range of different forms of violence that range from non-verbal, verbal, physical, digital, and so on. And it also pinpoints how it's affecting you. So, did you change your route? Were you stopped from going out? Was your mobile phone confiscated? And then you can start to work with stakeholders like, education institutions or police or city officials to find solutions. Some of our best examples are, working with the railways, Western Railways in Mumbai. When I first looked at the Mumbai data, a lot of the incidents were in and around the railway station. So we had the opportunity to present our recommendations to the railways and they implemented it. They also asked us to continue to do audits, and we did 3 rounds of audits of various stations that kept showing up on our map: Kurla, Dadar, Borivali, Goregaon, and it really helped them also understand where were the pain points, where they should they focus their attention. We have been sharing our data dashboards with the police in Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Pune, Goa. And that has also helped them understand the nature of violence, the hotspots of violence. Because remember, this is data that is not actually being logged at the police station. It also helps them understand when these incidents are occurring. So, a lot of people think that violence occurs only in the night, but public space violence for women occurs in the middle of the day. So, the peak is between noon and 2 p.m., but those planning our cities are concentrating on lighting. At 2 p.m., you don't need lighting, but you have to understand the context in which this violence happens. We've written research papers on women's reaction to harassment in buses, and that has led us to bystander intervention, because in most cases people witness it but they don't do anything. So we are now working with L'Oreal to do bystander intervention trainings for 50,000 people, helping them um, intervene without putting themselves at risk. Currently, we are working with the police commissioner of Faridabad to help reduce the violence in Faridabad, which is one of the highest districts for violence against women and girls. So there are many success stories, but if you look at the individual level, girls and women say they feel confident to step out of their homes later in the night, stay out later in the night, so they add 2 more hours to their productive day. Can you imagine if your life ends at 7 p.m. versus 9 p.m.? You have 2 more hours to play, to take up a job, to do errands. So many things you can do in 2 hours, right? They venture further from home, maybe for jobs, maybe for education. That in itself helps them with more economic opportunities in the long run. So those are some of the ways that I would say we have helped women and girls navigate, but also help them negotiate with their communities, because we are not going with individual stories, but we are going with a collective database that proves this is happening over and over again, and that they are not the problem, but it's a larger societal problem.
Elsa, hats off to you. The kind of changes that you have brought in and the kind of results that you have shown, you have actually made a difference in people's life. And as you said, that it's a community. It's not We are not working on every individual life. We are working on a community as a whole. So when you talk about children, and this generation is all tech savvy, and they are all stuck with social media and what all everything that goes around. There is just so much of information overload that we as educators we talk, and we eventually keep telling parents. We try educating them that understand, see, and observe what your child is viewing, because eventually as a person what he or she ends up becoming is the book, that their content that they're consuming, be it digital or be it the hard copy as books, what they are observing around them. And third is, who are those people around them in terms of feeding that information in their head. So when we talk about digital awareness, when we talk about the how children, today's children should focus, and how parents should focus on understanding what the children are viewing, there is, because there is absolutely no control over the content. A child of grade fourth is seeing what not on social media, something which he or she should not be viewing of that age. So, what do you feel like for these kids, for parents specifically? What should be the approach like? What are the key areas, and what is that piece of advice that you would want to give to the parents?
See, kids nowadays have lived, they are digital natives. That means all their life they've lived in a technology facilitated environment. So, adults around them, parents and teachers, have no choice but to upskill themselves and learn more about the digital spaces their children occupy. The world is changing. Earlier, you might have gone and publicly checked out a garden, checked out a space. Same way you have to do it in the digital world. No, but for that, you need a little bit of knowledge. Digital safety is absolutely critical because that's the world that we live in. And we have done many of these programs actually. Um, we also have to train these young people to not, link taboo with any of their experiences and have an open door policy, have an honest conversation with them. That's you encourage them to share what they are watching, who they are interacting with in these spaces, what's happened to them, so that when something happens, they feel comfortable talking to you and not feel afraid that their freedom will be curtailed. Our data shows that 90% of young people do not tell an adult what they are experiencing because they feel their freedoms will be curtailed. So they go tell a friend who, in fact, doesn't know what to do, and so nothing happens. But we are training young people to be peer educators, first responders, so that they can guide them correctly. I think parents have to have no choice in this matter but to upskill themselves. And then, last thing is put pressure on, you know, institutional stakeholders, whether it's the platforms or even government, to have stricter legislation, faster redressal, stronger policies that protect and prevent rather than only react after the fact, you know. So we can do a lot more in the prevention rather than only in the reaction.
So there are institutions like yours, and then we have institution like Skillizee, the founder of which I take a pride of being a founder. The reason why we came up with Skillizee on the first place was the children have so much time, energy, and they are tech savvy. So you cannot just shun them away and say, tell them that technology is going to only harm you. They are born in that generation. This is this generation. They are born with technology. So with Skillizee, what we do is the same time and energy is being utilized constructively. And through a series of events, through a series of activities and case studies, we make them realize different perspective on the same problem. We make them realize that this is the problem, so only this is the solution, or this is the only success mantra to go about for this problem is not the only way. There are different shades of gray in life. So we talk about emotional intelligence, we talk about real life problem solving, we talk about we take up different cases of people, how they ended up developing their own notion, developing their own career path, irrespective what the people said. So there is emotional quotient, there is spiritual quotient, there is the understanding of how to go ahead with any problem rather than feeling stuck. As you said, go out, reach out for help. So why do you feel like schools of today should collaborate with such projects and initiative, and that it is the need of the hour?
First of all, technology is here to stay. So, and all the jobs in the future will require you to have some knowledge of technology, if not a lot of knowledge. So, parents telling their children that technology is bad is incorrect. And technology by itself is not bad, it's how you use it. You can use it in a good way, you can use it in a bad way. I believe that all schools must have digital literacy in their curriculum to help young people, because that's where the job skills are going to be. And the only way that we can help them is create safety in those environments, knowing your rights, knowing the protocols to, protect yourself, just like how you do in the physical world. If there's a fire, you know how to put out the fire. If somebody is having a heart attack, you know what to do. So same way, if things go wrong in the digital world, we have to teach them how to react and respond in those situations, but also create protocols to prevent those situations from happening on a daily basis. It can be a one-off thing, but it can't be a daily basis. So I think for sure, parents, teachers, and the curriculum have to be upgraded.
So let's finally put this podcast to a stop by that one piece of advice that you would want to give to all the women educators out there today, women parents there listening to this podcast, and the students, girl students who are listening to this podcast.
Being a woman is not a liability. In fact, you can do anything that you wish to do. You can be who you want to be, and there are lots of opportunities in this world. Do not let anyone stop you. Do not let anything stop you. You have every right to be, you have every right to compete, you have every right to excel. So grab all the opportunities and thrive. Do what makes you happy.
Exactly. So, with that mission that we are not here to survive, we are here to thrive. We are very happy, Elsa, to have you in this podcast, and thank you so much. It was absolutely a great pleasure to have you in our podcast. Thank you so much, Elsa.
Thank you. So, Elsa, I think the biggest takeaway points from this conversation have been: have an open door policy, have open conversations so that children have a safe space to share and thrive. And I think another thing that would be really relevant to not just children but everyone out there is: how deeply do you know yourself? I think, as Lao Tzu said, knowing others is intelligence, knowing yourself is true wisdom. So, on that note, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. We will be back with way more engaging episodes in the upcoming weeks. So, stay tuned. Please leave a comment. Please share the episode if you think this would help someone, and leave a like if you think it helped you. Until next time, thank you so much. Bye, guys.